Welcome to Bridging the Gap. I'm Johnny Angel, Jack Hunt, and this is my partner, Byron Nash.
What's up, everybody? How's it going?
Hey, man, we're going to have some fun today, and I'll tell you about our guests in just a second. But, man, certain questions have been popping up about how things used to be and how they are now.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about how our musicians today, do they have another job? Do they concentrate totally on their... how is it for you? And then I can tell you my ugly story.
I think it depends on what your job is and how hard you want to go for the music. If you just love it and you want to play some guitar and play a few gigs or whatever, with your friends, that's fine. Yeah. But if you really want to pursue it, you need a job to keep the lights on. And then you have to be able to balance your time, So the big code word these days is side hustle. I never looked at music as that. I've always looked at music as my main thing. I just happened to work a job to be able to support it.
Yep.
Because I wasn't passionate about my job. I liked it, but I wasn't passionate about it. But it gave me the freedom to do that. And I think the key is to work and then do your music. And over time, percentage-wise, if you can start shifting to where you can at least get it to like 50%. Then you can kind of make that jump if you want to do that. But it's always going to be work, even that it's labor of love. But
no doubt,
can't do it without money. And if you're depending on music for money, you're looking at the whole game wrong.
Unless you make the big break.
Yeah, until you're there, right?
That's true. But my whole career, music has always been my life. From the time I was singing in church at 5 years old, all the way up till now, until I'm 50. And but it's kind of crazy for me because I remember that when I first got married and music was the main part of my life. I mean, that was my wife's parents said, "Don't marry a musician or a redhead," and she married both. So
she's a rebel.
It was kind of cool. But I remember trying to keep different jobs. But every night of the week I was performing.
Yeah.
Back in the day, there was a lot of clubs in Pittsburgh and the whole bit. But then I got this really good job with Bell Atlantic, and before that I was a truck driver. I drove a steel truck and a whole bit, and still tried to play music at night, But they come out with this article in the paper, and it says Jack Hunt moonlights as Johnny Angel, and it was in the Pittsburgh Business Times, and my picture was on the cover, and my boss didn't know that I was Johnny Angel.
Wow.
He was like, "Jack, is this you?" And then I had to be real careful because you can't do two things like that at once. You know what I mean? So, but I told them, this is my job, but that's my life. You know what I mean?
Well, as long as they don't interfere too. And sometimes certain jobs will have a crossover. So, I got into the service industry. I worked in the music industry first as a writer, but then when the magazine closed, I needed to survive as a single parent. Ended up in the service industry, and then I realized that they were very similar. Like the hours were kind of weird, the people and the energy behind it, was the same. And then there was a lot of flexibility in the hours. So, if you work a day shift, it might not be as much money, but you play the gig at night. Or if you're gigging, certain things, like even at the afternoon shows, like if I had a 9 to 5, I couldn't do that stuff. And those are those gigs that like people sort of take for granted, but those are the ones where people are like, "Hey, I saw you at Market Square on the lunch break," because thousands of people walk through that hour. So I always try to choose jobs that are in alignment with my music goals, and so it doesn't feel like a side hustle to me. And I really never played for money. I mean, I got paid, but I still don't do it for that reason. And I think the more I let go of that, the more money I was actually able to make.
But you talk about the money part of it. Back then, I mean, when you're playing 7 nights a week, I was making more playing music than I was. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you're gigging that much too.
And how do you walk away from that? You know what I mean?
You don't.
It's kind of tough. But. So what were you listening to this week? Because I got to tell you, man, our guest tonight I want to talk a little bit about because he influenced me with his abilities. This guy not only is a great singer, he's a drummer, he's a guitar player, he's a bass player, he's a songwriter, right, and a dear friend. And I'm talking about Robert Peckman, Pecky, which we're going to introduce in just a minute. So my album that I've been listening to this week, and it reminded me a lot about Pecky, was The Magnificent Men. Now the Men, now this is a group that come out of, they're like central Pennsylvania, Scranton area. And at the same time they came out, the Jaggers had their first album on Gamble and Huff. Okay. So it was kind of cool for me because I knew the Jaggers real well, and later I met the Mag Men, right? But they were in direct competition, and what happened was Gamble and Huff actually really grasped onto the Jaggers to compete against Capitol Records, and which was kind of a cool thing. But I was just talking about to Pecky that his album was out around the same time in a group called The Groove U, and I was going to bring that album, but I have it hanging on the wall back there, so we'll talk about that later. But,
that's awesome.
What do you have?
I actually like that photo too.
Isn't that cool?
It's a really interesting photo. I've been really into sound design lately, and you think of guitar and you think about the chords and the notes and all that stuff, but I like those guitar players where I forget they're a guitar player because they just do otherworldly things, and that would be Jeff Beck.
Oh, yeah.
Rest in peace. If people were to ask me, hey, who's your favorite guitar players, like your top 10, I always forget to mention him, but then I'll listen to him like, oh, he's in my top 10 for sure. And I just feel like he was such an original, and just the way he approached guitar and just seemed to be outside of what everyone else was doing and could really manipulate and bend sound and make the instrument do more than like the standard things that it normally does. So this is kind of on heavy rotation right now, so I can have some that magic seep into my life.
Well, what we're going to do now is we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, I'm going to introduce you to my dear, dear friend. I'm talking about Robert Peckman, Pecky as we know him as, and we'll be right back at you.
Jack in the Box.
Hey, Johnny Angel here. Welcome to Jack in the Box. Today I want to talk a little bit about sports, about my favorite sports. I'm talking about baseball. Roberto Clemente. When I was a youngster, we used to go to the knothole games at Forbes Field, right? And right before batting practice, you could go out with your little cameras and take pictures of your favorite stars. I got a picture of Roberto Clemente. I got his autograph that day. But then during batting practice, Bob Skinner hits a ball to right field. Clemente goes back like he's climbing the wall, catches the ball, and then he flips it up to the kids and I was that kid. This is the ball. It was from July 1962. Roberto Clemente. A ball, an autograph. Now that's Genshi. Welcome back. We are sitting here with my dear friend. This is Robert Peckman. We know him as Pecky. He's an institution here in Pittsburgh. And of course, Byron Nash. Right?
Pleasure. What a good show.
We could actually put a group together right now, three of us.
There's enough talent.
But, I've known Pecky a long, long time. And Pecky is such a staple of Pittsburgh music, especially Pittsburgh music, even though they had some national things. But when you think about Pittsburgh in my era, you go back to the days of Johnny Jack, and you go back to the days of the Skyliners and so on. And it's amazing that he was part of both of that city. Oh, wow. You know what I mean? And your songwriting ability, which I want to talk about, especially last week on my show, my radio show, I played a song by Q. And the group Q, I think it was like 78, 79, right?
77.
And 70, is that what it was? And it's called Dancing Man. And it was the first time some of the folks that I was playing it for had heard it, and they're going like, where do I get that? And I said, it's not new. This is an older song, right? And I talked about Pecky. So let's go back. Where did it start for you, Peck? Like, what year did you actually get involved in the music scene?
It was 1962. Wow. I was right out of high school. And there was a group, I grew up in Duquesne, West Mifflin area, steel mill area, and went to school with George Saranovich, who was a drummer, great drummer.
No, George.
He says, learn how to play the bass and you can make $25 a night. I said, all right. Sat down, the guitar player showed me all the positions. I practiced for a couple months at home. I got enough nerve to go out.
Nice.
With Jimmy and the Starliners in Portview and McKeesport area. First job.
Bogo?
The Pogo.
Pogo, that was it. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. First group. And George Saranovich got me in that because we were in high school together.
Okay.
And then he passed on He was only 45 years old.
Yeah.
What a drummer.
Yeah, he was a great drummer.
He played out in California with Love, Arthur Lee's Love, and
Yes.
Eric Burden,
Yep.
Jimmy Witherspoon. He was with a lot of people.
Yes.
So he was my first one to get me into music.
And then from there you went to what?
Well, I have it all written down.
You don't remember, huh?
Yeah, and then Johnny Jack Quintet in '63 with with Jackie Taylor from the Skyliners
Yes.
and Johnny Jack, and then that moved into the Skyliners when we did The Loser.
The Loser, that's right. A lot of people didn't realize that.
And
It wasn't Jimmy Beaumont.
No,
That was,
it was Jackie Taylor.
that's right, Jackie.
And that was 1965, and so we went on the road to promote that because it made the R&B charts. And then we were playing in New Jersey at Tony Mart's, and we met Levon and the Hawks, who later became the band.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
They were in the same club. They were on one stage, we were on the other stage.
It's Levon Helm, right?
Levon
Yeah,
Helm, and
yeah.
they were from Canada, and they were probably the best band we ever heard. And they says, "You're the best band." so they would
Mutual
hang out. Yeah,
admiration.
we hung out that whole summer
Nice.
of '65. And then after that, it was Johnny Day.
Johnny, that's right,
Johnny Day. I played bass for Johnny for about a year. And then that turned into the Groove U, which you mentioned before.
I love the Groove U because Groove U, again, was the group I was talking about that was in that scene at that time when you had the Jaggers and the Magnificent Men and the whole bit. And there were some serious cats in this band, too. I mean, your band rocked. In fact, one of the guys that was with the Groove U also was with the Shondells when we had Mike Ville in here.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
Yep.
So it's amazing. That you can see that circle, how it goes around
Right,
of everything.
right. Yeah, so I was fortunate to be with all these good musicians. A lot of good musicians in this town people don't know about.
Yeah.
And then that went to 1970. The Jaggers called me.
Yep.
I quit playing for about 5 months. I went to Connecticut to live with my brother and worked at Pratt and Whitney Aircraft. And I said, that's it. I was like 22 years old, 23. Thought it's time to take a break. The Jaggers called me, said, we need somebody. So I flew in. I was with them for about 10 months. And then they decided to break the group up and got some other people. And then we formed a group called November.
Yep.
Which was when I met Don Garvin.
Donnie Garvin, another.
Who is probably the best guitar player for all kinds of music you can think of.
If anyone I've ever worked with.
Especially soul music.
Yeah.
Southern soul,
Yeah.
he's the
That's
best.
right.
And he just loves that stuff, and you can tell.
Yep.
So we worked together for 20 years, and then Pure Gold turned into Pure
That's
Gold.
right. And most of the recordings, Pure Gold, come out, the albums and everything, Pecky was on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a...
And then, of course, Q was in there in '77. We threw that together up at Jerry's Studios. And I wrote a couple songs, and they liked it. They said, put an album together. So we just had to throw something together in a month. And but Dancing Man went to number 23 in the country.
It did.
And nobody knew that
Yep.
because they didn't play it much in Pittsburgh.
Yes, that's
And
right.
we didn't promote ourselves.
And that was Epic Records, right?
Epic,
Epic, yeah. That's
Yeah.
what I thought.
So yeah, but you can still hear it on YouTube.
Or on my radio show.
Oh, yeah.
I played it again on this past week after you stopped down.
Thank you.
And people were asking me, where did this come from? And I said, it's been out. I mean, and they thought it was a new song, because it's got a nice, cool feel to it, man.
Southern, yeah.
Very soulful.
It was during the disco era, but it wasn't really a disco
No, it
song.
wasn't.
It
No.
was more Southern R&B.
So with you being in all these different groups, we were talking about like side hustles as a musician and stuff. Were you full-time musician, or were you working and then doing those things at the same time? And if you were, when was the transition where you were like full-time, and how did you trust and know to go forward with that?
Well, it was full-time right away.
Oh, wow.
62.
Okay. Oh, that's great.
Until, I'd say 1974, when my wife says, we need a plan B. Says, how many musicians you know that are in their 30s that have made it or are still making any money? I said, not too many.
Yeah.
So she says, what do you like to do? And I said, I was good art and draftsman, so I went to drafting school. 18th month at Triangle Tech. In 1976, I graduated a degree and went to work for Michael Baker, which is up in Beaver County.
Yeah.
And then Dancing Man hit. So I quit.
Oh,
I
wow.
was only there maybe 8-9 months. And I says, I have a song that's on the charts, and we got to go on the road. So I left Michael Baker, did that, and then that didn't work out after It fell apart. So then, with my degree in drafting, I got with Comcast, which was then telecommunications, cable TV.
Yeah.
And I worked there for 27 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But still played music on the weekends with Pure Gold.
Oh, there you go.
So it's funny because 20 years, when I first joined Pure Gold in 81, was the same year I worked for Comcast.
Is that right?
And then that lasted 27 years.
Yes.
And then I retired 15 years ago. Can you believe that?
Wow.
From everything, and now I'm playing again. I'm doing what I like.
So, Jack told me you play a few different instruments.
Yeah.
Which one was your main first one? Was bass the first?
Yeah, I still have
Did it
that.
make it pretty easy to transfer to guitar?
Yeah, I always fooled around with guitar.
Okay.
But I never took it
And
serious.
the songs you were writing, did you do songwriting for other bands too, or were you writing just for the acts that you were?
Yeah, just
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Although I did when we had the Dancing Man album, and I was on the songwriting staff for MCA Records.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in New York. I went there and met them, Leeds Levy.
Oh, yeah.
And so I had a song that Wet Willie put on an album. Their album, Which One's Willie?
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'll stop and take a look at what you've been doing. And they recorded it.
Oh, I love it. I have that. I got to look that up now.
That's a good tie for the radio show.
It is,
You know?
yeah.
Stop and take a look. Yeah.
It always impressed me, but the thing that got me the most about him is, I'd seen him play bass and guitar, but his voice is, he sings everything from top tenor to
Yeah.
pretty much baritone, right?
Yeah.
And when he hits his falsetto, it's amazing. But then I realized and found out that he was a drummer. And I thought, all musicians, you just sit there and you wait, like, let me
hear you drum.
But you want to talk about a guy that knows how
You're
to
a singing drummer too.
I know, but you are one of those drummers that your pocket is, boom, it's right there, man. And that's why everyone loves to work with you, because you have that feel of the bass. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
You
I
understand
work with
rhythm?
bass players.
Absolutely.
I listen to the bass listens to me.
In all the bands I've ever been in, I've only had maybe 3 bass players that I totally connected with. Pecky was one of them,
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
And when you find that person that the drums and the bass connect, it's like, that's the band.
Yeah,
man.
that is the band. That is the
Those
foundation of it all.
You get the molecules. in the air.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what I'm playing live is so important. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, kids today, I hear that they learn on YouTube or they learn at home.
Yeah.
They practice their chops and that, but they don't get out and play with people.
Yeah.
You got to have
Nothing's
that
better
feeling.
than that.
That vibe from someone
And
else.
to stand next to a drummer or bass player
That's
and
right.
feel
Yep.
it and watch them what they're doing.
Yep.
You learn it that way so much more than just listening
Yeah.
and playing by yourself.
Yeah.
And that's why live music is so important.
Yeah, I agree.
hated to see it die for a while.
Yeah.
It seems to be coming back.
Yeah, I think it's back.
The young people are starting to catch on, and they're realizing that it isn't as easy as it was led on to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's not that many places to get together and play anymore. I don't know. Do you?
I think
It's starting to come back.
for where I am in the scene, I feel like there's a lot of places. I don't know if there's the same volume that you guys were accustomed to,
Right.
but it also just depends on what you're doing.
Yeah.
I think the opportunities are just different now.
Yeah.
But
They are.
I don't think there's as many clubs, so there's definitely
Yeah.
not that. Not like
When
it
we
was.
were back in our day, there, especially like 51 in downtown Pittsburgh, and everything, you could play in a different place every night, 7 days a
Oh,
week.
absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there was live music 7 days a week.
Shoot, even in the 90s you could do that.
Yeah.
Here,
And
but
the
it
old
really
newspaper,
changed.
The Pittsburgh Press used to have a list
That's
of all
exactly
the clubs.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And we played probably more than half of them, right?
Yeah. And you know what else is great? When you go out today, look at the mirror that's in my museum,
Oh, yeah.
and it has Clark Race's picture on it, right? It's all what Pecky was saying. It's the clippings from the newspaper of all the groups that we've worked
Oh,
with
nice.
over. And you're in there a bunch, by the way.
Yeah.
Good.
So we have this thing that we do. It's a rapid fire towards the end of the interview where it's something old, something new, something treasured, something true. Just kind of throw the first answer that comes out.
Oh, yeah.
You want to start?
Sure. Something old.
You can't say you.
Oh.
You can't say you.
Something old what?
Yeah.
That I can remember or that means.
Just something that means something
Just
to you.
something
Yeah.
that's old that you love.
That's a hard one. Musically, it would just be the music that I grew up with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
50s, 60s.
Still love the old music.
Yeah,
me
the
too.
1940s. I mean,
Yeah.
I listened to that more, and the ballad, the singers.
Absolutely.
There's so many great singers.
Yeah.
Nat
Something
King
new.
Cole, Mel
Oh, yeah.
Torme, people like that.
Yeah.
The high-lows. We talked about that.
Harmonies, yeah.
Something new.
something new.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know it. I got a new one for you. Go ahead and let me see what you say.
Yeah. Well, new groups. There's a lot of new groups I like.
Yeah.
Wolf Peck.
They're great.
I like funk groups. And,
Yeah.
Isn't there a new CD out?
Yeah. And there's a new girl named Madison Cunningham from California, plays guitar and sings.
Oh, okay.
Oh, she's like Joni Mitchell, but more versatile.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, check her out.
Okay.
Madison Cunningham.
And I have a new album by this guy. The new Pecky album. Yeah. I love it.
He was like, oh yeah.
3 years in the making.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Well, because COVID hit, we had to
Right.
stop. Yeah.
Pause it, yeah.
And one of our friends when we did an interview a while ago with Billy Price, and the thing that was kind of cool is he brought up the name Jim Britton, which also associated with this guy. You know, when you get that circle,
Yeah.
it comes around. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Right,
How about something treasured?
Treasured. My wife, my family,
yes.
just still being here.
Yeah.
You know, health.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always said I'd rather have health than wealth, but I'd like to have both. But I'll take health.
Yeah.
That's right.
I never had the wealth, and that's fine.
And something nobody knows about you, but it's true.
I don't know, I guess I'm quiet, reserved, not, even though I'm loud on stage,
Yeah.
and banging the drums, but
That's right.
But sort of quiet, I don't do a whole lot. We don't go out much.
Yes.
Just kind of reserved and
Yeah.
enjoying life.
Yeah. I read a lot of good books
Okay.
since I retired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, he just turned me on to a book that I'm picking up. It's called Breathe.
Breath.
The
Lost Art of Breathing.
Mm.
And I appreciate that because
Check it out. You can get it from the library.
Yeah.
Okay. I read a lot.
Well, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, I'm hoping that we can do a little jam.
Sure.
Sound good?
Yeah.
We'll be right back
I'm
at
always
you.
ready to play.
Hey guys, welcome back to Byron's Bodega. Today I want to share with you one of my prized possessions, and I know I say that a lot, but this is truly a treasure for me. This is the BR1600, which is a 8-channel recording studio. I got this probably back in like 2003-4, and it was the beginning of my journey of recording music and really delving into sound and production. This model and these kind of hard machines like this were the last of the era where you can buy a machine and everything was sort of contained inside, and then everything transferred to digital and became software and super computerized, and really hard for me to understand, but I've learned that. But this was how I got started, and this was one of the machines that kind of gave me the confidence to trust my own production ability, songwriting ability, and I still have music in here from back then. It sounds amazing, but this thing is sort of like, it's like a tape machine, but it's still digital. So it's sort of archaic now, and they would call it a dinosaur. But to me, this means everything because it got me on the road of production.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay, hey, we're going to do a song I wrote a couple years ago after the George Floyd incident. It's called It's All Up to You and Me. And Byron and John's going to help me out.
Sounds good, brother.
Okay. We need more love and understanding. We need to live in harmony. We're so out of tune. Gotta do something soon. It's all up to you and me.
Yeah, baby.
Awesome. That's a great song, man.
Thank you, Peck. We appreciate you, brother.
Thanks for
Thank you
letting me
very
play
much for
this.
being on the show.
Yeah.
Thank you.